When birds are going about their business, just chipping away, either in the forest or in your yard, using what birders call chip notes or contact calls, are they talking to someone else? Or, like us, do they sometimes talk to themselves, not expecting any response in return? Today, during the Mindful Bird Sit, we're going to see if the birds will reveal the answer to us. And let me know in the comments what you discovered for yourself. Hey, bird lover. Welcome to the Mindful Bird Sit. If you're new here, my name is Christy, and I help people connect deeply with birds and nature while boosting their skills, elevating their confidence, and helping them to fall more in love with life. If that's something you'd like to do, please subscribe and stick around. You can also check out my engaging online course called Identify Any Bird Anywhere. All right, let's get started. I was like walking the other day and listening to some birds, like a chip note, and I was trying to see, like, is anyone talking back to that bird? And I didn't hear anyone, but the bird was still chipping. It was still quietly chipping. And it was loud enough where I could hear it. And I thought, gosh, like it's just chipping, chipping. Not singing. It's a chip note, like where it's just like chip, chip, chip. And in the birding world, we typically, at least I've believed, that chip notes we also call them contact calls because it means that the bird is talking to someone else. But there are times where I don't hear any response. And so I have a bunch of questions in my mind. One is like, are birds always talking to someone else when they're chipping, not singing? Singing is like a sort of like a different world. We won't focus on the singing today, but the chipping. Are they always talking to someone else? Or like us, might they be sometimes talking to themselves without needing a response from anybody, where they're just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna pack my things and I'm gonna get my pen and oh yeah, where's my other thing over there? You know, like when you just sort of are in your own world and you're just like talking. I mean, I don't know if you guys, I think it's an Italian thing too. Like I just talk out loud to myself. Yeah, I think a lot of us do that. So do birds do that too, where they just sort of like talk, you know, they're just like blah, 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 blah. And there was a third one I had in there. Where they might be chipping, but then their partner or friend or, flock mate may not be responding. And maybe it's just, maybe I was only there for 10 minutes and maybe they don't respond within 10 minutes. And, anyway, so there's a lot of questions I have about that. So I thought, let's play with it today. So what I think we're going to do is we'll be focusing on chip notes today. So put yourself in a position where you can hear. So I have my windows open right now. So if you're inside, open your windows. And for those of you who have birds that are very vociferous, I know sometimes when Linda's here, and in other places, or Anne Marie with the wind, for instance, but if you have other very vociferous birds, like a whole flock of starlings, for instance, in your yard, what I'm going to inspire you to do, or just, I'm going to suggest, is that you just try to find one voice in that flock, in that cacophony. Just see if you can really identify and pinpoint just one. If it was a person, if it's a whole group of people talking, could you identify just one person, like something about this particular chip or squabble or squawk that's different than the others, it's unique, and just sort of stay with that one and stay with it for a little while, especially if you've got a flock there. Stay with it, stay with it, stay with it. And then eventually during the sit, I'd like you to try to see if you can tell if anyone's responding, even though it might be a loud or big flock. So I don't know if we have any of our big flock people here today, but in case they're watching this video, the recording of it, that's their assignment if they've got a big flock. So let's get started with our grounding. So let's just feel ourselves in our bodies in this moment. You can close your eyes if you want to, or keep them open. Just notice if anything's standing out to you at first. Is there any part of you that, we'll start with the achy breaky part first. So is there any part that's a little crotchety, a little achy, stiff, maybe discomfort somewhere? Just notice that part. And then take a nice deep breath in, and on your exhale, just send it some love. Just give that place some love. No judgment. You can just let it be crotchety, let it be achy. Doesn't have to change. But you're just going to give it some love right now. Good. All right, now search your body, do a little body scan, and see if there are any places in your body that just feel so good, that feel light, happy, easy. And even if you're like, no, I can't find one, just see if you can find one. Maybe it's like your pinky finger or something like that. The places that we don't often consider. Maybe it's the tip of your nose. Find some part of your body right now that just feels all right. Even if it's not wonderful, maybe it just feels all right. And then send on your, after you do an inhale, on your exhale, just send that part of your body some love as well. Just letting it be all right or even wonderful right now. Nice. Okay. So now while our eyes, some of us might have our eyes closed, we'll give our attention to our breath first. Can you hear the inhale as it comes into your nose? Filling your lungs deeply. And then your exhale, you can either exhale through your nose or your mouth. And just notice the rhythm of your own breath. What's your rhythm today? And the fun part is that you've got a little band going on because you've got first the rhythm of your breath and then the rhythm of your heart. So once you've spent a moment or two with the rhythm of your breath, you could see if you could find the rhythm of your heart. Maybe even put your hand on your chest, or some people can feel their pulse on their wrist or their neck. Or you can just lay it on your chest and see if you can feel your beautiful heart in there. And just notice the rhythm that your own beautiful, unique heart has today. Good. All right. So now we're going to give our attention to our ears. So sending out our awareness. First, we're going to stretch them. Let's go out far and then we'll bring it back in. So send your sense of hearing out as far as you can in this moment, and just notice what the furthest sound is that you can hear right now. Is there a sound that's even a little bit further, maybe in a different direction? Okay, good. So now bring it back in just a little bit. Bring your sense of hearing in where you're still out far, maybe like a dinosaur length, like a brontosaurus away from you, or a couple brontosauruses. So listening still far away, but not quite as far as you might have been listening before. What does the world sound like out beyond, just at the edge of your auditory reach? And while you're listening, can you get a vibe or a sense of what might be happening in that area around your house or around where you're sitting right now? Does it feel like from what you're hearing that all is well? Is there a disturbance in the force or something different? Great. Now bring it in a little bit closer to you. Now maybe you're just a couple school buses away. So you're bringing it a lot closer to yourself and listening to the sounds that you're hearing around you. Noticing if it's any different, if the vibe a little bit closer in is different than the vibe further out. Okay. Now bringing it in even closer to now where you're, let's say, trying to think of a large, like an elephant away from yourself. So listening to the vibe and the sounds that are about an elephant's, stretched out elephant's distance away from you. Great. Now bring it in even closer. Now it's just an arm's reach away from you. What are the sounds an arm's distance away from you in this moment? And now that you're present to those sounds, were you aware of them while you were stretching your hearing out farther away? Or are they just really becoming a part of your consciousness right now that we're bringing attention to them? It's just a simple question, not a good or bad, just a curiosity. Beautiful. And now we're back with ourselves again. And so in the next moment, take a nice deep breath in while our eyes are still closed and smell the air, noticing the new, unique scent in the air this morning. It's good. All right. And then the next moment, on your next exhale, go ahead and slowly and gently open your eyes and allow your gaze to fall on whatever it does. And really just focus on that for the next moment or two. And without taking your focus or your gaze away from that point, your point of focus, you're going to now expand your vision in all directions. Slowly, slowly expanding. And maybe for today, we usually go right and left. I think that's the natural direction for people to go when they're stretching. But this time, try to stretch up and down first. See how far your vision can expand above and below. And then after you've allowed your eyes to soften and settle into that, then expand out right and left. And just see what the world's revealing to you in this softened gaze right now. Not forgetting to look up at the sky, noticing what the sky is doing today, what kind of personality is up there, what kind of vibe or energy is taking shape in the sky today. Very good. And now, since this practice is going to be focusing on our ears, you can opt to keep your eyes closed if you prefer today, or you can have them opened, whichever one feels most nourishing to you. And so we're going to begin first by let's just find any, again, this is focusing on birds today. So see if you can find a chip note out there on the landscape. I know some of us are inside right now. That might be a little bit harder to hear. You're welcome to position yourself like right next to a window if you want to. You don't have to be, I don't have to see you if you want to step away a little bit. Um, and then just see if you can identify any birds that are chipping out there, not singing, but chipping. And I'll let you just search for them for the next moment. We'll get our bird. And I will say for those of you, it's possible you might not be hearing any chip notes right now, but you are hearing song. And if that's the case, first I do want you to just really stretch and try to hear for chip notes. But if you really can't, then you can shift this to focusing on song. And so we'll just shift it to listening for song and anyone responding to that song in just a moment. So once you found your bird, your chipper, whoever it may be, just really become familiar with its chip right now. Notice where it is, how steady the rhythm of the chip is. Is it a little sporadic? Are there pauses? How long are those pauses? And so we'll just let ourselves be with the chip of this particular bird for the next couple of minutes. Okay, good. And so now that you've become familiar with the chip or the song, whichever one you've chosen to listen to, now see if you can hear a response. See if anyone is talking back or responding. And it might be a little while before you hear a response. It might be immediate, but just notice if you hear a response to the sound that that bird is making. And again, it might be far away too. So some of them we often expect to be close, but they might be further than we think. So allow yourself to listen deeper into your landscape if you need to. And I'll give us a good couple of minutes for this next portion. And if the bird that you're listening to, if you're not hearing a reply or a response, just see if you can get the vibe of if that bird is just talking to itself. Does it give you that sense that it's just chattering away to itself, or maybe that there is someone else out there and we just can't hear it or see it right now? And if you are able to be with a sound right now, maybe it's just one that you're able to stay with. You might have had to change birds because if one goes away and another one comes in, you could also imagine yourself, you can also even close your eyes and just imagine yourself down there or up there, wherever it might be, with that bird. And just notice what it would be like to be right next to it right now and to be its little buddy, you know? And or just even to be right there with it as it's singing or chipping and feeding. And just notice if that shifts your experience at all, if it might enlighten you to some other aspect of this bird's communication. And the mindfulness part of this practice is that when our minds start to wander, maybe during a quiet period or whatever, or even while we're listening to the bird and our minds start to go off into some other some other thought, to bring it back. Remember to return to that bird sound. All right, good work, bird nerds. So keep doing what you're doing. If you're looking at a bird, it's all right. Um, but just take the next couple minutes and offer gratitude to whoever it was you connected with this morning. A blessing, give them a blessing, send them a blessing, or offer gratitude to whoever it was. Okay, nice job. You know the drill. If you need to head out, thanks for coming and playing. And if you want to stay for our chat, then please do. So let me just see. Yep. Who would like to share? Anyone want to share their experience from this morning? Yeah, Anne, please.
I'm in my camper today. It is, as you can see, it is
Windy.
crazy windy. So I don't hear much when the wind is blowing. But it was nice. It's like you knew where I was when you said when your mind starts to wander. So when I'm listening to this, it's like when the wind starts to blow, my mind starts to wander.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would come back and I would hear, I'm thinking I'm hearing finches, but
Mm.
they would get drowned out. So I just had to enjoy the day. And it's just a poetic March day. The sky is blue. The clouds are white and fluffy. I want to sing "Let's Go Fly a Kite," but it's just too cold to sit out in the wind right now. So, but I can open this full window, and there's pine trees, and usually there's juncos and birds on the ground. But it's pretty quiet here, except for the wind. So
Yeah,
just
well,
had to embrace it.
that is beautiful. And I love that you were still trying to hear it in the moments where the wind, hushed for just a moment or two. And maybe you heard finches, maybe not. I know that feeling where you're just like, I think there's somebody out there. And then you can't tell again because the wind picks up. And yeah, just well done on bringing yourself back and being with what was there, just being real with what was in the moment and allowing yourself to play with that. Yeah, thanks, Anne. That's great. All right, who else would like to share? Julia, go for it.
I have the mask on for the pollen. So this morning I came out and it was unusual. I think we just had a high pressure move in, and so the sky's really blue, and in contrast to yesterday, cloudy and birds were it was just a cacophony. I had this image of a New York City street scene where it's just full of people bustling about, and the air was just full of bird song like that. And then when you ask, listen for chipping, dead silence as usual. Whatever you're asking for, nothing. But I did notice toward the end of it, and I was noticing the other day too. The red-shouldered hawks appear to be back, and there is a sound, and not a chip, but just say, "I'm here," not singing, and then there would be a similar kind of sound from the blue jay, and then a cardinal would just say, "I'm here." And who else? Let's see, crow. Yeah, I'd hear that, and there was that kind of uh, more than once, a kind of staking out. This is my apartment here. you know, this is my house. This is my tree. That's my nest. Just in. I'm here. And um, I since we were talking about sound, I had an experience the other day. I have red-bellied woodpecker has drilled a nest in an oak tree, and it's where I can see it. Oh, it's big hole. Well, I was out the other day, and there was just this racket. This red-bellied woodpecker was going on, scolding and scolding and scolding, and going on and on and on. And unfortunately, some starlings have found the bird feeders, so they like the clean feeder too. And so it turns out a couple of starlings had been trying to take over this hole, or they had found it. And this woodpecker was scolding and scolding, finally chased one off. And by golly, there was one down in the hole. So they just kept on scolding and scolding until finally said, oh, all right, and the starling leaves. But for a good little while, the woodpecker continued, not quite as loud, but that same kind of, it reminded me of a child who's gotten scolded. And then afternoon, cries, still upset. And I thought, well, I wonder if there's an emotional high or something, and it takes a little while for that to go away, or if the woodpecker was just so upset, and still worried that they might come back or something. But it was interesting. I think they may have successfully defended their territory, because I looked up and I saw a red head in the hole just at the moment I looked. So I hope. But I found that interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first, I just want to acknowledge what you were hearing earlier with the different, the sort of all the big players of your yard, or your neighborhood, that is, and just the connection between their calls and the communication that was happening there. So well done, like listening to that and hearing that connection, between them. And then regarding the starling and the woodpecker, I saw the same scene with the same birds, with the red-bellied and starling, actually, in this dead tree where I was staying at a friend's house when I was in Colorado one year, and I remember, I don't know if I heard the commotion or if I was just looking outside already anyway, but it was a point where, like, I actually got worried for the starling, because woodpeckers can be quite violent. And very intense. And same thing, like one of the buddies had already gotten out of the hole, but the other starling was still in there, and the woodpecker was like going down in and just like coo, 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 coo. And I was like, oh my, I don't know how deep that hole is, but like that starling is maybe not going to make it. Like, and the woodpecker wasn't giving up. It just like wouldn't stop, and it would like kind of maybe go and wait a little bit, and you could maybe see the starling start to like peek its bill out, and the woodpecker would just like go, go, go at it. And I really thought that the starling wasn't going to make it out. And I think its buddy came over eventually, and now I can't remember what happened. It did eventually get out, and that there was no death. But it was a long time, like a long time that woodpecker was at it, and really not wanting that starling in there, and probably willing to like kill the starling. It was gonna go to the death. It wasn't playing around. And I was just like, I don't know if this starling's gonna make it out of there. But yeah, I always love hearing those stories, because I've seen other species connections where there's this pairing all across the country where you have both those species, and yeah, and I witnessed that in Colorado with those same exact species. And it's the same thing that I remember we talked about once, not here, but with a different bird group, about the connection between red-tailed hawks and I think it was barred owls, or great horned. It was great horned and red tails, that I've seen them nesting in the same exact territory, which always surprised me, because barn owls will, sorry, not barn, great horned owls will kill everybody. Like they don't care. They're going to kill everybody in their territory. Like all the ones that are, again, like those big players, like ravens, crows, whatever. And but when we talked about it, multiple people had been like, "Oh yeah, I've seen a red-tailed hawk in the same territory as a great horned owl." And there was like 3 or 4 people that had seen this connection with those two. And I always find those fascinating, like the pairings of certain species, and like what allows them to live either a copacetic life or a life of like, always at odds with each other. And it seems like there's something with the starlings and the, obviously I'm sure they like each other's nest sites, but yeah, that's interesting. I'm really glad to hear that you saw that as well. And yeah, good observation there, Julia. Well done. Anyone else want to share their experience from this morning? Yeah, Anne-Marie, please.
Hi. Hopefully this will work because my internet's a little bleh. But I was listening to White-throated Sparrows because some were ground feeding.
Emery, hey
They just kind of
Emery.
do like a little seep.
Oh, if you can turn your video off, sometimes that makes it better because it is a little choppy, but see if you can turn your
Yeah,
video
my
off.
internet's a little unstable.
Yeah, turn your video off and we might be able to hear you better. Usually it comes through clearer when the video's off. There you go. Now give it a try again.
Okay, okay, I will try.
Okay.
I was listening to White-throated Sparrows, and they were ground feeding below the feeders I have up here near the deck, making their seep seep little kind of contact call, and then I could hear over along the fence line um, like a response. So I could hear it again, seep, seep. And then after a while, I wasn't hearing them underneath, but I could still hear them over along the fence line. So I don't know if they moved over there. It got loud with other birds, but every once in a while I could still hear the seep, seep over there. So they definitely were kind of communicating and then maybe moving around. So that was interesting, as well as a blue jay who is trying to pretend it is a red-tailed hawk, but not. Successfully trying to get access to the feeder.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but yeah, so fun times.
That's great. When you were listening to the white-throated sparrows, were you able to pick out any individuals? Like that's this one and that's that one, or this one's talking to that one, or were there just sort of too many of them to distinguish?
um, I couldn't hear all of that because the internet went out, but um, I could definitely tell they were different birds kind of talking to each other because it wasn't too long in between the response, but definitely like a few seconds, and there was like the seep, and then again another seep over on the side that was softer. The over by the fence, obviously it's a little farther away, so at least I heard it softer. And that I like listening to them when they're foraging in the woods and things like that. So it's kind of a like, I'm here. Are you here? Are you okay? You know, it's like the Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that was the vibe you got from them. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, my story also is related to the white-throated sparrow this morning. I heard a bunch of it was challenging to listen in here. I feel like because I wasn't able to be right next to the window. And so when the sounds were coming in, I couldn't tell location or distance. That was sort of hard for me to pinpoint to know like how far away is that bird or how, where exactly are they on the landscape. But the one that they finally got close enough, there were some white-throated sparrows. I never saw them, but I could hear them, their little chip notes. And yeah, and it just made me really want to be outside with them because this question I've had within me for a while. And I was like, I just want to be out there right now and see if I can figure this out, you know? Like it just again, it made it just like fun. I'm like, I'm just gonna have to spend more time outside, and keep this question alive within me and really sit, when I don't hear a response from a bird who is chipping, if I don't hear anyone else responding to that one, like if I have the time to just stay with them for a while and see, or it for a while to see if there might be a responder. Because I still believe that like my sense is that that's what's going on, that like that they're probably not like us just talking to themselves. That doesn't make a lot of sense for a bird who is living off the land. I don't want to get too like focused on survival because again, I don't really ascribe to that for the wild, but like there is a piece of it, when you don't know where your next meal is going to come from, you don't expend a lot of extra energy. But it's an abundant world, and it's spring is here, and so yeah, maybe they talk more. I don't know. So anyway, it just made me really want to keep following this question further, I love not having, well, I don't always love not having the answers. I do love having answers sometimes, but it is fun to not have answers and to just like let the world teach me or, kind of take me down the path of the mystery. So that's my story. Anyone else? story to share. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming today and playing. And I think we're good for next week. So, yeah, really good to see you all. And I hope you just have a beautiful rest of your week and keep playing with this question if it's one that interests you. You know, maybe it's not, so do something else. But if it is, keep going. Let me know what you discover. All right. We'll see you all soon. Bye.